The year is 2025, a chill wind blows not just across the Canadian prairies but through the very fabric of US-Canada relations. The source, a presidential decree. The US, under President Trump back in the Oval Office, has threatened a hefty 25% tariff on all incoming Canadian goods. An extra 10% is slapped on energy exports, a direct hit to Canada's energy sector. The date this economic sledgehammer is set to fall? February 1st. The reaction north of the border? Swift, defiant, and unlike anything seen before. This wasn't just about dollars and cents. It was about national pride. It was about pushing back against a bully. It was about redefining what it meant to be Canadian in a globalized world. The tariff threat landed like a bombshell. Canadian news channels exploded with analysis. Social media feeds were flooded with outrage. From bustling Toronto to the quiet corners of PEI, Canadians were united in their anger. For many, this felt personal. It was more than just an economic issue, it was an attack on their way of life. This wasn't the first time trade tensions had flared between the two neighbors, but this time felt different. The stakes seemed higher, the emotions more intense. This time it felt like a line had been crossed, and Canadians, from everyday citizens to the highest levels of government, were ready to draw a line of their own. They were prepared to stand together, united in their resolve to protect their nation's interests and identity. Almost overnight, a hashtag appeared, capturing the simmering frustration and burgeoning sense of defiance. #BuyCanadian. This simple phrase quickly became a rallying cry for those who felt overlooked and underrepresented in the global market. At first, it was just a whisper, a call to action shared among friends and family. Conversations around dinner tables and in group chats began to shift, focusing on the importance of supporting local businesses. But it quickly gained momentum, transforming from a simple hashtag into a roaring movement. Social media platforms buzzed with activity as the message spread like wildfire. Social media became the movement's engine room. It was here that the campaign found its voice, amplified by likes, shares, and retweets. Facebook groups dedicated to supporting Canadian businesses popped up like wildflowers in spring. These online communities became hubs of information and encouragement. Instagram feeds overflowed with images of grocery baskets brimming with maple leaf emblazoned products. Influencers and everyday users alike showcased their commitment to the cause. It was the digital age's version of a barn raising, a collective effort fueled by patriotism and a shared sense of purpose. Communities rallied together both online and offline. The movement wasn't confined to the digital world, it spilled over into everyday life, influencing shopping habits and consumer choices. Grocery stores across the country, sensing the shift in consumer sentiment, began prominently displaying Canadian-made goods. They recognized the growing demand for local products. Special tags highlighting local products materialized seemingly overnight. These labels made it easier for consumers to identify and choose Canadian-made items. Aisles were redesigned, putting homegrown brands front and center. Stores adapted quickly to meet the new consumer expectations. Buy Canadian wasn't just a slogan, it was a statement. It represented a broader movement towards economic independence and national pride. It was a declaration of self-reliance, a rejection of American dominance, and a testament to the quality and diversity of Canadian products. The movement celebrated everything that made Canada unique, and it was resonating loudly. The message was clear. Canadians were ready to support their own, and the world was taking notice. The economic stakes of this brewing trade war were enormous for both countries. The US and Canada, despite their differences, were more than just neighbors. They were economic brethren, their fortunes deeply intertwined. Every day, an astounding $3.6 billion worth of goods crisscrossed the border, sustaining millions of jobs on both sides. For the US, Canada represented a critical market. Canadian consumers, known for their love of American brands, were a goldmine for everything from tech gadgets to automobiles to entertainment. The tariffs, if enacted, threatened to disrupt this lucrative flow, potentially costing American businesses billions and jeopardizing jobs across the country. The impact on Canada, however, could be even more profound. While Canadians were eager to embrace homegrown brands, the reality was that many industries, particularly manufacturing and technology, were deeply integrated into US supply chains. A full-blown trade war could leave Canadian businesses stranded, starved of essential components and facing a daunting uphill battle. The Canadian government, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, found itself walking a tightrope. On one hand, they had a duty to protect Canadian businesses and workers from the looming threat of American tariffs. On the other hand, they understood the deep economic interdependence between the two nations and the potential for a tit-for-tat trade war to inflict serious damage on both sides of the border. Trudeau's response was measured but firm. He acknowledged the legitimacy of Canadian anger, praising the Buy Canadian movement as a testament to national pride and a powerful signal to the US. But he also cautioned against rash action, emphasizing the need for a diplomatic solution. Behind the scenes, however, Canada was preparing for battle. The government drew up a list of retaliatory tariffs targeting billions of dollars worth of American goods. These weren't random targets. They were carefully chosen pressure points designed to inflict maximum political pain. Florida orange juice, a staple on Canadian breakfast tables, was in the crosshairs. So was Kentucky bourbon, a favorite nightcap. Section 5. Meet the new Canadian shopper. Peggy Chambers, a retired teacher in Halifax, had always considered herself a savvy shopper. But lately, her trips to the grocery store had taken on a new dimension. Armed with her phone and a list of Canadian brands, she meticulously checked the labels of every item, her cart a battleground in the fight for economic independence. "It used to be all about finding the best deal," she explained, her voice filled with quiet determination. "Now it's about supporting our own. Every dollar I spend is a vote for Canada." Peggy wasn't alone. Across the country, Canadians were experiencing a similar awakening. They were swapping American cereals for locally produced granola. They were ditching their favorite US-made jeans for Canadian denim. They were rediscovering the quality and diversity of their own backyard. This wasn't just about blind patriotism, it was about making conscious choices, about understanding the impact of their spending habits. It was about reclaiming a sense of agency in a world increasingly dominated by global corporations. Section 6. Untangling the Web of Trade. The Buy Canadian movement, for all its good intentions, exposed the immense complexity of the US-Canada economic relationship. Untangling two economies so deeply intertwined was like trying to separate two strands of spaghetti after they've been thoroughly mixed. The intricate web of trade and commerce between the two nations had developed over decades, making any attempt to separate them a daunting task. Take, for example, the case of Pierre Oliver, owner of a small model train company in Quebec. His story illustrates the hidden complexities of this economic relationship. Pierre prided himself on his Canadian craftsmanship, his trains a beloved fixture in hobby shops across the country. His dedication to quality and detail made his products stand out, but what many of his customers didn't realize was that the miniature motors powering those trains were imported from the US. This reliance on American components was crucial for his business. A boycott of American goods, while well-intentioned, could end up hurting businesses like Pierre's. The economic fallout could be severe, leading to closures and job losses. The tech industry presented another layer of complexity. This sector, known for its rapid innovation and growth, was deeply interconnected with the US. Canadian tech firms, while innovative, were heavily reliant on American investment and partnerships. These collaborations were essential for their growth and development. A trade war could stifle innovation, starve startups of capital, and hinder Canada's ability to compete on the global stage. The ripple effects would be felt across the industry. The message was clear. Disentangling the two economies wouldn't be easy. The intricate supply chains and economic ties required careful navigation. It would require careful consideration, a nuanced understanding of the interconnectedness of global supply chains, and strategic planning to mitigate potential disruptions, and a willingness to accept that there would likely be both winners and losers along the way. The path forward would be challenging but necessary for a balanced economic future. Section 7. A boon for Canadian business. Amidst the uncertainty and anxiety, a glimmer of hope emerged. The Buy Canadian movement, while born out of adversity, had the potential to be a catalyst for growth and innovation in Canada. Suddenly, Canadian businesses found themselves in the spotlight, their products in high demand. Farmers, the backbone of the Canadian economy, were among the first to benefit. Supermarkets, responding to the surge in demand for local produce, scrambled to secure contracts with Canadian farms. Greenhouses and vertical farms, once seen as niche operations, experienced a surge in investment as Canadians embraced the idea of locally grown food year-round. Manufacturing, too, showed signs of life. Companies that had long relied on exporting raw materials to the US were now exploring ways to add value domestically, creating jobs and boosting local economies. The message was clear. Canada had the resources, the talent, and now the will to build a more self-sufficient economy. Section 8. A nation's pride, an economy transformed. The Buy Canadian movement was more than just an economic strategy, it was a cultural phenomenon. It tapped into a deep vein of national pride, a sense of shared identity that transcended geography and language. Suddenly, it was cool to be Canadian. The movement's impact extended far beyond grocery store aisles. Canadian music topped the charts. Homegrown fashion designers were featured in international magazines. Canadian athletes, fueled by a wave of national support, excelled on the world stage. Even the political landscape shifted. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre, once a fringe figure, gained traction with his message of economic nationalism. He called for increased investment in Canadian industries, a reduced reliance on U.S. trade, and energy independence, including the construction of a national pipeline. His message resonated with Canadians who were tired of feeling like pawns in a geopolitical chess game. Section 9. The future of a relationship. As the 30-day deadline for tariff implementation approached, the world watched with bated breath. Would the two countries find a way to step back from the brink? Or would the trade war escalate, leaving lasting scars on the relationship? The outcome remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: the Buy Canadian movement had irrevocably altered the landscape. It had awakened a sleeping giant, instilling a sense of confidence and self-reliance in Canadians that would not be easily extinguished. The US-Canada relationship, like any close-knit family, would likely weather this storm. But the dynamics had shifted. Canada, once content to play the role of the agreeable younger sibling, was now asserting its independence, demanding respect, and charting its own course. The future was unwritten, but one thing was certain: Canada was ready to write it.